A professor from MIT who studies plasma and nuclear fusion has just been murdered in his home. And this actually goes so much deeper than the headline. And some of you guys might be wondering, like, Josh, why are you covering this? Got nothing to do with UFOs. I disagree. And we're going to get into why this actually has a lot to do with the UFO topic and kind of the broader cover up of suppressed technology and information. Not the kind of video that I like to make, but as I always say, if we just ignore the dark and kind of terrible things that are going on in this world, that's how we got here. Not talking about it is basically just compliance. And this rabbit hole goes very deep. But my name is Josh. Welcome to Polarity. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We dig into the phenomenon and the weirdness of our reality pretty much every single day in a video or a live stream. So with all that said, let's get into the video.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
So we're going to start right here. We're going to read through this article and just go through the basic facts. But guys, like I said, there was just another shooting a couple of days ago at Brown University, which I think may be connected to this. But the weirdest part of all of this is that Trump has made a massive move when it comes to nuclear fusion less than 24 hours after this murder happened, and we'll get to that at the end of the video. MIT grieves shooting death of renowned director of Plasma Science Center. Nuno Loureiro, 47, was shot multiple times at his home, and no details about a suspect or motive have been released. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology is grieving after the shocking shooting death of the director of its Plasma Science and Fusion Center, according to officials. Nuno Lorero was shot multiple times at his home in the affluent Boston suburb of Brooklyn on Monday night. Lorero was taken by emergency responders to hospital, and he was pronounced dead there on Tuesday morning, the Norfolk County District Attorney said in a statement. This family is so amazing. I can't imagine anyone wanting to kill him, the neighbor Louise Cohen was reported to have said. I mean, there is a big write-up here, but there's really no other information than that. This is a guy basically looking into the fringes of science, plasma, nuclear fusion, cold fusion, things that are just so tightly related to the UAP topic. And in his affluent, wealthy suburb, he is shot dead in his home multiple times, and there are no suspects. If you can't see some kind of conspiracy or cover up in that, then my brother in Christ, I do not know what to tell you. So I did say before, it was only like a day prior to that there was a shooting at Brown University. Brown University is less than an hour away from MIT. Now, look, I don't know anything more than that. I don't know if they're connected. I've heard that the shooter in the Brown University case was Portuguese, which is where Nuno Loureiro is from. They're both from Portugal, but I don't know if that's confirmed, and I don't know anything more than that. But the fact that there is a shooting both related to universities less than an hour away within 24 hours or so of each other is kind of interesting. But this is what I really want to talk about. Like, why is this relevant? Okay. I think people researching this topic need to start thinking a little bit less about UFOs and aliens from Zeta Reticuli and just start looking for patterns. Because when you start to see patterns, a picture begins to form and you start to see what is really going on beyond the layers of just bullshit and misinformation that is put in front of our eyes constantly. I think Nuno Loureiro was murdered because he was on the brink of discovering something to do with nuclear cold fusion or plasma or something that relates to free energy. And we know how disruptive free energy might be to the powers that be. But as I said, pattern recognition is important. So here's why I think that. This is Karl Wolfe. He was a US Air Force photo technician.
I was stunned actually to see people at a NASA project from all over the world. It didn't make any sense to me initially. I was taken into the laboratory where the equipment was malfunctioning. I couldn't repair it in the dark. I asked to have it removed. A airman second class was in the dark room at that time. I was also an airman second class. I was interested in how the whole process functioned, how the data got from the lunar orbiter to the laboratory. Asked the young man if he'd describe the process to me. He did. About 30 minutes into the process, he said to me, in a very distressed way, by the way, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me, and clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. And at that point I was very concerned because I knew we were working on compartmentalized security. He had breached security, and I was actually frightened at that moment.
And he met an untimely end by being hit by a tractor while riding his bike. This is Amy Eskridge. She was a physicist researching anti-gravity propulsion technologies.
It's been independently discovered 4 other times. He said it has been suppressed every single fucking time. And he said, I don't think they're going to suppress it this time. He said, I think you're in the clear. He said, they obviously know about you because I've had multiple, both protective and threatening interactions with various agency affiliations, whatever. He was like, if you haven't had a US government agent come to you and say, stop, shut the fuck up, stop, shut the fuck up. If that hasn't happened, they're gonna let you do it. They're waiting. There are SSP motherfuckers that are fucking twiddling their thumbs. Like, is Amy not gonna publish soon? Gah, we've been influencing this bitch forever. Doesn't she know we want her to publish? Jesus. Like, there's multiple people doing that right now. And on the other side of the fence, there's multiple parties looking at each other like, didn't we tell this bitch 3 years ago that we kill people for this? Is she not listening? What is she doing? She's still doing it? What? We told her we were gonna kill her 3 years ago.
Amy died by a gunshot wound, which was declared as self-inflicted. Prior to this happening, though, Amy spoke out publicly multiple times saying that she felt like her life was in danger. This is Phil Schneider. He was a geologist and engineer that worked in black programs.
In working with the black projects, I was very loyal. I was picked because I was very strong mentally. There's a bunch of us that were picked because we don't crack under pressure. We don't freak under pressure, so to speak. Everyday events don't bother us. That during the unbelievable part, I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. It's a biological laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hauled out underground. To our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. The large alien graves had been encamped there for as best as believed possible about 400 or 500 years. It had been one of their internal bases. And we drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up, and well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really. All started.
He died via asphyxiation. Even after publicly declaring multiple times that he would never take his own life, he was found with a catheter, his own catheter, wrapped around his neck. This is Mark McCandlish. He was an aerospace illustrator.
Top military brass and certain congressional individuals that his office must have coordinated this with the local Air Force Office of Public Affairs. A male staff member in Congressman Brown's office not only confirmed the exhibit, but the fact that there were 3 discs at that exhibit. These discs were hovering off the floor without any visible means of support. They were referred to as alien reproduction vehicles, also nicknamed the flux liner because they used high voltage electricity. This is a diagram that I made based on a sketch that Brad Sorensen did for me in rough form shortly after he had his sighting, and subsequently cleaned that drawing up and made it much more accurate. And that's the drawing that Dr. Greer is holding there now. Later on, I obtained photographs that were taken in 1967 by a military pilot, Harvey Williams, flying a C-47 for the Air Force at 12,000 feet.
He died by a shotgun wound in 2021 when it was said that he was going to be testifying at an upcoming UAP hearing. This is Eugene Mallove, a fusion scientist who spoke openly about the reality of cold fusion as far back as 1989.
What we really had was a threat to the scientific establishment. The threat of it even being implied as real and having monies, shall we say, being diverted from their favored programs, and that was a threat. It was real. Overwhelmingly compelling, as I said, in Fire from Us. It was real. Now it's 100% certain. In fact, what Pons and Fleischmann found was only the tip of an iceberg. But within weeks, the hot fusion people were going into action behind closed doors to disprove them. The difference between July 10th and 13th was dramatic. The raw data, excess heat. But then on the 13th, it was shifted completely. It was altered. They did some standard averaging, which was appropriate, that is in time blocks, but the level of the signal had been utterly changed. It looked like monkey business to me at the time, and it has turned out to be exactly that. Scientific paper done under Department of Energy contract that had altered data, and that data is scientific fraud as far as I'm concerned. It was represented as a negative result when it was positive. The representation of the altered data as a negative was clear fraud. We know for a fact today that the cold fusion, low energy nuclear reactions are real. In a few instances, I can say there are clearly over-unity electromagnetic devices, things that produce more electrical energy out than in.
Murdered in his home in 2004. It seems like we have had this technology for a long time now. And whenever anybody independently begins to scratch the surface of discovering it, they seem to disappear. Pattern recognition tells us that there is some kind of global control group operating that is limiting access to knowledge about UAPs, non-human intelligence, and nuclear cold fusion. And it also tells us that all three of these things are very likely related in some way. Whether it's the evident fascination that these UAPs seem to have with our regular nuclear facilities, or perhaps cold fusion is the energy source that allows these gravitic propulsion machines to do the incredible things that they seem to do. But what makes all of this even creepier is just 24 hours after Nuno Loureiro was murdered, President Trump's media company signs a $6 billion merging deal with Tri-Alpha Energy, an energy company that works specifically in nuclear fusion. So this is the article here. Look, published Thursday, December 18th. And this one that we looked at before, Wednesday, 17th of December. I mean, this is just crazy. Fusion deal, why Trump media is merging with TAE Technologies. President Donald Trump's social media company will provide the capital needed to bring TAE Technologies' first fusion power plant online in the United States by 2031. This is an all-stock merger valued at more than $6 billion. The CEO said the deal would combine Trump Media's fortress balance sheet with TAE's technologies. We've got capability and technology to really scale this. We've got the engineering prowess to do that, but the last piece of the puzzle was the capital, he said. Now you're marrying capital with that underlying base of technical capability. Fusion is a form of nuclear power that could one day generate enormous amounts of energy by fusing atoms. The process, which powers the sun, does not produce the long-life radioactive waste that is the byproduct of fission, the process created in traditional nuclear reactors. Despite decades of research, scientists and companies have so far been unable to commercialize fusion technology. Fusion ignition was only achieved for the first time in a laboratory setting in December 2022. So again, there's a lot more to that article, and I'll leave a link to it and everything we look at today below if you want to go and check it out for yourself. But if that doesn't give you an ominous feeling, then I just don't know what will. There are countless people out there who are online speaking about the power and reality of cold fusion. If you go on ChatGPT, it'll tell you that it's just a conspiracy theory. Yet as you saw before, you've got fusion scientist Eugene Mallove telling us that it was possible as far back as 1989. And look what happened to him. You've also got Ashton Forbes, a friend of the channel who's just been balls deep exposing this stuff for years, and he has had every single CIA bot attacking him from every angle for doing so. Stephen Greer even made a fantastic documentary called The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, which was all about the suppression of technology, basically since Tesla, that's just been purely to monopolize and control the population. And that is because cold fusion is the key. It unlocks everything. It is unlimited, clean, free, 0-point energy. And that's exactly why you're not allowed to know about it, because it literally changes everything.
Something happens with clean plasma fusion where it's like a vortex opens up, and the nuclear explosion that takes place, it's like it's the end of a straw that then sucks in background energy from the 0-point field. So if you could find a way to control that, you could use plasma fusion to tap into the 0 point field and get basically unlimited energy, what we call 0 point energy. So in essence, there's a certain kind of electromagnetic plasma fusion of nuclear isotopes which can be used to open a vortex that channels and funnels energy from the 0 point field. And there's your free energy that people have been talking about. That's the power source of a flying saucer, of a UFO.
You know, there are people who have been experimenting with 0 point energy or try to tap 0 point energy for years. Every once in a while, someone will do it accidentally. They'll call it cold fusion, but I don't think it's cold fusion. I just think it's a 0 point energy tap. Except for 3 people that I know, no one has been able to control it.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm going to keep an eye on this case, and if we get any significant updates or developments with it, I'll let you guys know. But I know it's not directly anything related to UFOs or UAPs, but personally, I think this is closely related, but it's on the side that we are not allowed to know about. If you did enjoy the video, please leave it a like. Let me know in the comments as well. You can support the channel by becoming a member for $5 a month, or you can jump on our merch store, which currently has 20% off for Christmas. Use the code WeirdoXmas to get your 20% off. That's my Merry Christmas to you guys. Thank you all for supporting me. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.